Welcome to Dirty Fanatics United.
Falcon Nation, Falcon fans, welcome back to Dirty Fanatics United. If you're new to the channel, man, you're just tuning in to DFU, hit that subscribe button. Glad to have you to tag along with the DFU. I am your host, C Money, followed by my co-host, David. My other guy should be here in a little while as we have a full panel of co-hosts here on DFU. We have a lot of topics for you guys today, a lot of updates that have hit the news as far as combine interviews, Kyle Pitts being franchise tagged, the announcement of Kirk Cousins being let go at the beginning of the new football season. David, a lot to talk about before we get to it. What's been going on? How's life treating you? And just your overall thoughts of some of the news that's broke throughout the week.
Well, yeah, life is good. We're getting into what's going to be the heavy part of the off season. Combine started. Franchise tag dates. Was out. Finna roll into my favorite part. Or well, not my favorite part, but the part that I'm going to be most interested in the early part of the off season is going to be the free agency. I think that's what a lot of how we're going to be able to shape our team going into next year is going to lean heavy on that free agency period. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of free agency rumors that have speculated over last week. Rumors such as in Caden Ellis may be a guy that is not re-signed here in Atlanta. A lot of rumors circulating around that. Before we get to that, though, David, we got a lot of topics that we want to hit on today. We'll jump straight in. Hopefully, Cody gets here in just a few short moments. But right into it, man. Let's talk about what we learned this past week from the NFL Combine interviews. I mean, obviously, we learned that Ian Cunningham is straight to the point. If I learned anything, Ian Cunningham has a vision, and he is well known to let that known of what he wants that to be. Ian Cunningham, Kevin Stefanski, both with straight to the point of what they expect out of this team, what they see could happen from this team. Questions as far as about why the Tommy Rees call into place this year for the Atlanta Falcons. Kevin Stefanski elaborates on that a little bit as well in his interviews. David, I don't want to speak too much about it to take your thoughts and opinions from what you got from those interviews, but what's your thoughts of Ian Cunningham and Kevin Stefanski? Kind of a first look in the NFL Combine. I mean, as Ian Cunningham said, this is a dream come true. Like I did this in college. I watched other not free agent, other GMs sit in this role. Now I'm here. Just David, your thoughts, and if you had to give him a grade, what would you grade Ian in his first NFL presser?
Well, press conferences, is a lot of politics involved in that. They're gonna say the politically correct thing, going through his interviews. But once he started putting some action behind the words and everything, is when I want to, really dig deep into him. I think he appears sharp. He appears to have a very direct course of action that he wants to go through. But it's the proof is in the pudding. Once all the talk and all the rhetoric of the what we want to do and this and another, I want to see the plan go in action. They're talking like they're aligned. They're talking about they have a common vision. But once everything starts manifesting and we see players coming in, that's when I really start paying a lot of attention to it. Right now, it's just talk.
Yeah, absolutely. It is just talk, but they have made some moves, David, and they made it well known that they were going to make moves as soon as it was available to start making those decisions. Your thoughts on the announcement of the fact that the Atlanta Falcons did place the franchise tag on Kyle Pitts and the announcement that they did let Kirk Cousins' agent know that he will be released at the start of free agency?
But these two, those and Cardell Hodge was the most surprising one out of all of them.
Mhm.
Kirk Cousins being let go was just a foregone conclusion. Yeah, we all knew that we weren't going to pay him 65 million next year. So that didn't come as a much of a surprise. And to me, there was no way they were going to let Kyle Pitts walk out the door free like that. 16 million. Everybody's really talking about how much that's a cap hit, but this is one out. This is Stefanski is a tight end guy. We
Mhm.
saw what he did with David Njoku in Cleveland. He's a perennial, top-notch player there, and I think that Pitt's skill set far surpasses his. So I am encouraged to see what he's going to do with Kyle Pitts in our offense and everything next year. But him, like I said, I've been speaking on that for a lot of our podcasts that there's no way that we let Kyle Pitts walk out of Atlanta, free and clear. If anything, franchise tag, try to extend him, franchise tag, try to trade him and get something else for him because he is a hot commodity. He is one of our better assets to the team, and there was no way that we let him walk out of Atlanta without franchise tagging him this year.
Yeah, a lot of the Atlanta Falcon, radio host and Falcon fans took to social media and said that the Atlanta Falcons were only franchise tagging Kyle Pitts because they were going to try to work out some kind of trade deal, speculating what Ian Cunningham stated that the Atlanta Falcons would never have 5 draft picks again ever uh, in a draft as long as he was the GM of the Atlanta Falcons. David, what would you tell fans that seem to think that the Kyle Pitts tag was just a way to extend longer time to make a trade to find somebody that wants to give up some draft capital for Kyle Pitts? I think that this was the Atlanta Falcons way, and Ian Cunningham explained it the best way possible. This was a way for the Atlanta Falcons to buy them time while they dealt with a lot of situations that they had to take care of right now in a moment of, I mean, we're talking players all across the board, David. You're talking about the edge position. You got 2 to 3 edges on that list. You have a receiver that you have to figure out what you're going to do. If you're going to re-sign a Darnell Mooney, if you're going to cut him and save the 12 million. A lot of decisions for Ian Cunningham and the staff to figure out in their first year in Atlanta with a limited amount of cap space. David, if you got the chance, could you pull up what the Atlanta Falcons salary cap sits at right now with the release of Cordell Hodge? Chad, if you're watching this live right now, give us a comment. Let us know. How do you feel about the Cordell Hodge release? Was it worth it? Was Cordell Hodge a player that you wanted to see here, even if he was just a gunner in Atlanta? A guy that you wanted to see on the roster is now Cordell Hodge released as of what, yesterday or the day before? So Cordell Hodge will be released. Kirk Cousins being released. And then the obvious news, Kyle Pitts being franchise tag. David, do you have that cap space number?
It says that team cap space right now is level 11 million, but that number is gonna definitely grow with when they finally release Cousins. His cap is still sitting on there, um, but uh, the salary cap is. I'm beginning to fall into the thinking that the salary cap is just a myth. There's ways around it. Every team ends up fine. They start off with one amount of money and end up with millions and millions more. So there's going to be some extensions. There's going to be some cuts. There's going to be some restructures and everything. So the money is there if you want to get it. So the 11 million uh, doesn't really do anything for me right now because when it's time to find the money, I'm quite sure any GM or whoever they have doing their salary cap numbers and everything, I'll be able to find any amount of money that they need to get the players that they want.
Absolutely. So when you going back to the combine situation, the interview, did you catch any kind of drift of what style of player the Atlanta Falcons were looking for? They did ask Ian Cunningham in the interview about a receiver. What he was looking for as far as a receiver position. He said, it's according if you were looking for a speedster, if you were looking for a guy that builds up speed, a physical receiver. He said that the option for wide and broad when it came to receiver. Uh, Was there any expectations to you that the Atlanta Falcons gave any kind of hints of what they were looking for at the combine?
Well, no, I don't have. No, I don't give my personal opinion on that. I don't
Yeah,
know what they said about who they end up tagging, but everybody knows that we don't have a burner. So Cordell Hodge leaving, it's going to the only solid wide receiver that we have on staff right now is Drake London.
yeah.
I don't think that my personal opinion, knowing that Stefanski likes the tight end more, I think that Kyle Pitts will be more of a feature in our offense, more so than the wide receiver two, and then Bijan is going to get more looks out of the backfield. So that's pretty much the third option in the passing game. I
Mhm.
don't, we don't need to. I know that everybody wants to go and get the the high profile receiver and everything, but I do really think that they're going to feature Kyle Pitts a lot more in the offense this year than last year. Definitely if they're paying him $16 million on the franchise tag, he's going to get some touches. So that's
David,
something to look for.
a name came up today or yesterday at work. I was speaking with a buddy that's an NFL fan, not a Falcon fan, but he brought up the fact that an old Falcon was going to be a free agent this year, Lamade Zaccheaus. If the Atlanta Falcons went and grabbed a receiver that, not necessarily saying Lamade Zaccheaus, but if the Atlanta Falcons went and grabbed a receiver of that stature, could you kind of lean towards, hey, I believe the second round pick is more than likely your future receiver two in Atlanta?
Oh yeah, I told you, when we were talking about draft picks and everything, we're going to take a receiver in the second round. If we don't move up. So,
Yeah.
the second round we will see a offensive skill player in Atlanta. And area all the other skill players are field. We will get a compliment to Drake London in the draft this year.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the interview with what Kevin Stefanski was asked. They asked him when Tommy Reese was initially called to be the play caller here in Atlanta. They asked him why, and he stated that the fact of how Callahan, the offensive line coach, would have a major say in what went into play on Sundays. That throughout the week when they do their game plan, it's a whole group of people. Stefanski would help Tommy Reese throughout this. Um, Whatever you want to call it, game plan throughout the week as they get ready for these play calls. Brian Callahan, obviously being a guy that has known for a run heavy offensive line. You look at what the Atlanta Falcons have now in Matthew Bergeron, Chris Lindstrom, Caleb McGarry, if he's back healthy, ready to go this next season. Also, if you go back with the Ryan Nuzil at center, and also Jake Matthew on the other side of Matthew Bergeron. David, when you listen to that roster and the depth that the Atlanta Falcons had right there for the past few years, not really a deep O line roster if you look at the chart. Do you see a shakeup happening to the Atlanta Falcons offensive line? I was speaking the other night with a Falcon fan, and they said they would not be surprised if there is a shakeup in the Atlanta Falcons offensive line this season.
Okay, now we got we talked depth. Depth comes back from injury. We had um not Lynch or McGarry out and Storm Norton. I think those will be two people that we know are going to come back from the offensive line. The only shakeup I can really see is Ryan Nuzul not at center. Personally, I would want a upgrade and spend some money at center. We got some centers on the market that got a little bit more skin in the game than Nuzul. So like I said, we got to do something to make Penix a lot more comfortable. And I don't think that Nuzul has at this point of his career and his experience, able to, command the, slide the protections and everything from the offensive line. I can't say I've seen, the centers, down on the knee, scrolling the defensive backfield, calling out protection. I can't remember seeing Lindstrom. I'm not Lindstrom, but News will do that this year, and I think that's if we're going to have a young signal caller back there, they need that comfort zone in front of them, and I think that
Yeah.
if there is a shakeup, it needs to be at the center position.
Yeah, absolutely. Some Falcon fans were mentioning the fact of Chris Lindstrom with that draft capital situation, trying to gain more draft capital, finding a guy for a cheaper situation there. Your thoughts about that, David? If you had to lose a Chris Lindstrom, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze.
Yeah, it's all about
Excuse
it's
me.
all about the comfort of Michael Pittman. Who if we remove Lindstrom, are we bringing somebody lesser there that's gonna disrupt what he's pretty much almost solid offensive lineman,
Pro
and
Bowl three times, I believe.
yeah, and why would you if you're gonna go with a and try to develop Michael Penix, why are you gonna take away that? I think you need to come status quo and try to upgrade, not
Well, David,
you know
have you seen the new hot topic that's all over social media now? The new QB speculation that could land in Atlanta. Have you seen that?
who Kyler Murray.
No, that's one of them. But the new recent one is Ian Cunningham's backup quarterback in Chicago. The white guy, forget his name. He had a couple
Yeah,
of flashes in Chicago
and,
before they got Caleb.
and then he'll be just that in Atlanta as well, a backup. So is he don't have any skin in the game. I can't call his name. I know exactly who you're
So,
talking
David,
about, but
the question I had to ask you, and it's a question a lot of Falcon fans, nobody truly knows because it hasn't been released. Nobody knows where we're at right now in this rehab process. All we know is that Penix is in the building doing the work that Penix has to do. Coaches have talked about how they passed him in the hallways. He's in good spirits. He's doing what he has to do, and he's at a good spot in his rehab. That's all we know as of now. Um, Penix in a FaceTime interview. I couldn't find the source of who posted it, but I seen it on a edited video on Twitter. They were asking would he be ready week one, or Penix said something about he wasn't going to be getting hit until week one, and they said, so does that mean you'll be ready week one? He said, I'll be ready week one. Um, Penix believes he'll be ready. Some Falcon fans believe he'll be ready. Some Falcon fans say there's no way he'll be ready. There'll be mid-season before we see Penix. Your
I'm one
thoughts
of the
on that?
one. I'm one of the ones that thinks he's going to be ready week one. I think when he went down, I count the months up, and I told you that physically he'll be ready well before the season starts. But when you're dealing with injuries and stuff, it's the mental part that a lot of the hurdle that a lot of the athletes have to get over with. And being that he's already lived this injury and knowing that once the repair is made, it's solid. And I think that part of it makes him more ready week one, not having to wonder whether the knee will hold up, knowing
So,
that.
David, does this put a? He's such a young player, and he's already at such a adversity as that he's going through, and already such a young part of his career. But does it offset his learning of this new scheme that this new head coach and this new play caller brings to
No,
Atlanta?
no, this is the thing. He's already on his feet. He's going to be in the building. He's going to get all the mental reps. He's going to get all he can. He's up now, and I'm quite sure that he'll be ready to throw in the next couple of months. So I don't think that. I think it's the contact part of the all season that he's not going to get, but he'll be
Yeah.
up on his feet and able to throw, able to do everything, avoid contact. And I think that's the only part that he's going to miss. He's going to get all the meetings. He's already in the building, so he's going to get all the meetings. He's going to get all the learning of the playbook, and he's going to be on the field throwing. I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to hand off. He's going to be able to drop back and throw the ball. He's just not going to be able to get contact. But what quarterback gets contact in the off season? I think
Yeah.
he's going to be on his feet and ready to participate in that part. And like I said, he said week one is the first time he's going to get contact. How many quarterbacks get contact in the off season?
Yeah. Yeah, you're
So
absolutely right.
yeah.
Shout out to Southside Ricky in the chat with the first comment tonight. So, what's going on, everyone? Falcon Nation over, everybody. Rise up, Southside. Glad to have you in the comment section, brother. Hit that like button. Mark Smith in the chat with us as well said, good evening, gentlemen. Glad to have you back in the chat with us. Mark Smith, he said, what are we going to do about JPJ? Well, David has the recipe for you about JPJ. I have a few that I could say, a few words that may do a little justice. I look at Zach Harrison, man. I look at what he did before He went down with his injury. He led the Falcons in sacks at 6 sacks. I believe that's before week 5 or week 6 of the NFL season. Um, Zach Harrison was causing havoc early last year in Jeff Ulbricht's scheme. I believe Zach Harrison picks back up where he left off. You also look at Braylon Trice in-house, that possibly your first sighting of a Braylon Trice this season if we can stay healthy through the offseason. And then you look at retaining a player like Leonard Floyd or Arnold Ebiketie in the free agency. David, your thoughts about
Yeah.
JPJ? How do you fix that problem?
Well, we have to operate at this point as if we're not going to happen. So, like saying those names that you call Harrison, Floyd, Ebiketie, those are some of the names that that we have to lean towards. It can be fixed in house. I don't. I think that it's opportunity. I think that the scheme that Albright put forward last year is a good scheme, and I think that JPJ did benefit. Of course, he's a beast on the edge, but I think that 10 sacks that he got, I think that if we get 7 from a Floyd and 7 from Ebiketie, Harrison comes back on the same trajectory that he was on before he got hurt and gets a 7. I think that production can be relegated to those players quite naturally. I hope everything lands well for us with JPJ. It would it be a situation where he gets suspended for a few games? The court case is not going to happen before the end of the next season. How these things normally play out. So
Right.
what is the NFL going to do? Are they going to suspend him to the court case paying us out? Are they going to suspend him for 6 games and let him come back and play and then he go to court and have his day in court? But we don't know how that situation is going to turn about. So right now, I would say operate as if we're not going to have him, and if we do have him, it's extra.
Yeah, I agree. Operate as you don't have JPJ for next season. That's how I look at it. See if you can fix it in house. If you look at, I mean, if you were to want to go and get somebody, if the Falcons know more about the situation than what the media and
Yeah.
us Falcon fans know, if the Falcons go out and sign in free agency, they go out and sign one of these big name edges, expect to lose JPJ. That's just how I look at it. If the Falcons sign a big name edge rusher, it's not going to be good news for JPJ. Southside Ricky says JPJ will be back maybe in a season. I'll say, in my opinion, he's still young and stupid. Hopefully, he learns from this going forward. He has no choice but to learn because he put himself and his team in a very jeopardized situation. It's not a good situation for JPJ. Mark said, "I hope that's true. I hope it's true too. I hope we can find a way to, you know, find a way to keep JPJ, find a way to get him back on, get him the help he needs as far as mentally or therapist, whatever it may be." But you look at people like Chubb that's going to be available. You have Boza that's going to be available. A lot of edge rushers that are out there right now that a lot of teams are going to try to go after. So, and right now, David, I'm sure you've seen also that it's trending that the Falcons are looking to release Tyler Algier to let him test free agency heading into as far right after the franchise tag of Kyle Pitts. This news came out. So, I don't know if that was just them saying the Falcons have used a franchise tag. Tyler Algier is more than likely going to walk and test for agency. But the Falcons will also need to, I don't know, do you think the Falcons fill that role in-house or they find a running back somewhere in the late rounds of a draft or maybe a undrafted running back?
Like I said, I told you that there's a couple of running backs that are familiar with Stefanski's system that I think would be a good fit for Atlanta. But you know, third, fourth round, I think that we got. I think I want to see what's done in free agency before I talk about the draft.
Yeah.
I don't know what Ian is gonna do in the free agency part of it, but before I talk draft, I got to see what we're doing free agency because that'll shape what the draft needs to look like. When we see what they attack in free agency.
But we do know regardless if Penix is healthy or not, start of the season, the Falcons have to sign a quarterback.
Oh, we don't have another quarterback on the roster, so we got to
Got to sign
sign
a
one.
quarterback. Yeah.
So
So whoever that's going to be.
yeah, Penix is the only quarterback on the roster right now. So it's obviously that they're gonna
But
have to sign
I've been a
some
Falcon
type
fan
of
long
quarterback.
enough. David's been a Falcon fan long enough. As soon as Falcons sign a quarterback, there's going to be a whole lot of speculations that float around. But the Falcons have no choice but to sign a quarterback
Mm.
this offseason. Whether that is a veteran Joe Flacco or a younger quarterback that they think may have some
Yeah,
competition with Penix.
yeah, yeah. We have to bring a veteran in. I don't think that we can sit a rookie behind him. It has to be a veteran that can come in and produce in case we do have issues with Penix.
That's why when Falcon fans say Malik Willis, I'm just like, that's too young of a guy.
No, that's 30 million, and that's not going to happen.
It's
That's
too young of a guy
yeah,
too. Like I need a guy that's proved himself in the NFL. He's won some games in the NFL. Like the Joe Flacco, to me, is the perfect hire. Like that's the perfect hire for a backup role.
well, definitely, knowing the system that Stefanski already runs, and I think that would benefit. I think, I've, spoken on it. I think that Flacco would be the perfect quarterback that we bring in. That is going to be someone that's cheap. It's going to be somebody that already knows the system. He can come in and, win a game, and we've seen him done it. And I would think that would be the perfect situation. If we can get him on a veteran minimum type deal. So at this point in his career, he's not going to garner a 10, $20 million contract. So that would be the perfect situation for me. Backup
David,
money, Joe Flacco. I'll sign them tomorrow.
the Atlanta Falcons are not low on salary cap, about mid of the pack, lower towards the bottom end of middle of the pack. But when you look at their situation, does the Atlanta Falcons really let two linebackers walk in free agency? Troy Anderson, Caden Ellis.
Troy Anderson, he hasn't really done anything for us. Anything. I think Ellis is the biggest name you have to worry about. But I think that was one of the things that I did hear Ian Cunningham say is that there are a lot of quality linebackers in this year's free agency, and that's why
A lot.
they're willing to let Caden test the free agency market because I think they can they have um, some people out there that may be able to, give you the same production. But I think the Demand Diablo is another reason why you may be able to let Caden Ellis walk because of what he can do. Divine Diablo is the one that I definitely think is the lead dog in the linebacker room. And I know Ellis is the name, but I appreciate what Diablo did much more. When
Oh
he
yeah,
was healthy
Diablo
than he
bought
did.
out. Absolutely, Diablo bought out. My thing is, if you lose Troy Anderson, which hasn't done much throughout his career in Atlanta, when he did, he played decent ball in Atlanta. Was a good depth piece. Would have been a great depth piece for this past season, but you're losing a depth piece in Troy Anderson if he was healthy this year, and you're losing a starter, the green dot, in Caden Ellis at linebacker. You look at some of the linebackers that are available. This guy's not going to hit free agency, but was let known that he could seek a trade. That would go with Chicago's linebacker Edmund. What kind of trade would that take?
More than what we could give.
God, a
So
godly amount.
yeah, so with what they were saying that they're trying to accumulate draft picks, not give up more. So they're someone who wants to build his team through the
I don't
draft.
really know. I don't
Keep
know how you're going to even get more. You're going to have to trade back in the second round to even get
yeah
more draft
yeah.
capital.
I don't know.
That's what, unless you trade a player to get more draft capital. That's the only way I see you, and or trade back. That's
Yeah.
Southside Ricky says, would y'all consider Will Levis? What's his contract situation? I I don't want Will Levis. If my dream scenario, if I knew that Penix was going to be out a game to 4 games, and the 49ers was going to let Mac Jones walk, it would be Mac Jones. But he's still under contract. They're going to keep him in 49ers or San Francisco. Will Levis, I don't know, man. Tennessee was a bad team. Obviously, Tennessee still is a bad team. Um, but have we seen enough of Will Levis to say this guy can win us games until Penix is healthy? I don't know. David?
No, being what Daniel Jones has done in his career, I'm not ruling out any of these
Yeah, I mean
high
that's true. That's
profile,
very true. Yeah,
quarterbacks that
that's why I was stating
was
Tennessee's a
stuck on a
bad team.
bad team. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I don't know. I was high on Desmond Ritter. I think that if the system that we were running wasn't, I know everybody look at me sideways, but I
yeah,
think
you're
Desmond Ritter
speaking
probably,
facts.
yeah, I think Desmond Ritter, had all the tool sets, and if he had landed in the better situation, he may have been more successful. So, mobile, a good arm, heady kid, but he fell into that situation that you know got him ran out of town, and now he's struggling to find a job. So, it's all about the situation that you find yourself in. And Daniel Jones, while he was New York, he was out ran out of town, and then land and find success in his new home. So uh,
Yeah.
all about situations, system. I think the system and the scheme dictates a lot.
Mark Smith says I heard 28 mil with the cut of Kate, Kirk Cousins, plus if we cut Mooney, Clark Phillips, and number 89, we would have a cap of 43 mil. You can also extend that cap space if you extend the contract of Drake London and or Bijan Robinson. You can extend that contract with an extension of Drake London for sure. Um,
Sign, sign Kyle Pitts to an extension,
or sign
and
Kyle Pitts as well.
you can easily clear
You're
money
also
enough
going to
to go
clear
out.
more money if you lose JPJ for this season. If
Mm.
he's suspended for 5 or 6 games, that voids um, his rookie contract or some shit. I don't remember. It voids something. But there's also another way to get some more money that way. Southside says Will Levis beat the dog poop emoji out of us. He did, but that was also under a Jimmy Lake, I believe. That was a Jimmy Lake scheme defense. That was a really bad defense. But
Well, yeah, the Falcons have a propensity of making these underrated quarterbacks seem like they're Hall of Famers for some reason.
yeah,
I rather
Tua probably had the best game of his season in Atlanta,
yeah,
and
a lot
is
of
losing his job in Miami.
a lot of quarterbacks have career years when they play the games when they play against the Falcons for whatever reason. I'd much rather play uh, the starter than the backup at times because anytime I see when the backup is playing, I'll get a little fearful that we're going to make this kid look like he's the next best thing. So that's how we've been for the last few years, but we're gonna get better with that.
Yeah, I hope to see the defense take even a bigger step towards the right direction with the retaining of, Nate Ollie, Jeff Ulbrich. That's the goal. I mean, that was the goal of retaining those guys. I think that's um, a big
Well,
part of what.
before we move on, you was talking about Reese calling plays and everything earlier, and um, I get excited about the offensive staff because Reese is going to be calling plays, but they have 5 offensive coordinators
Hmm.
on that staff. And I'm quite
Hmm.
sure it's going to be through that week. It's going to be crazy in those film rooms and everything,
Oh yeah.
trying to get ready. So I think that the offensive staff excites me for that very reason. They're going to have, um, you know, means of brains in there to try to figure out how they can attack these different teams and everything. And that excites me right now to even think about what's going to go on with that.
What really excites me is hearing Stefanski talk about how Nick Chubb was probably his favorite player to coach, how he was able to be elusive in the backfield, the power, the strength, and also how he was able to catch out of the backfield and be that downfield receiver slash running back. And guys, if that don't describe Bijan Robinson, I don't know what does. I think
Mhm.
Bijan could be even more special in a Kevin Stefanski offensive scheme. I think it would be crazy what Bijan could do here in year 4. ATL Quill says, just jumped in. The offensive staff is loaded. There will be plenty of help around. Who do we grab at quarterback 2? David, we just spoke about the situation here about the Falcons would for sure grab a quarterback. We didn't know who exactly that would be. But David, if you had to take a guess, if you had to take a gander, who would the Atlanta Falcons hire at QB2 here to support the Atlanta Falcons until Penix is ready, or to support behind Penix if Penix is ready week 1?
Let's go, Flacco.
Let's
Let's
go.
go, Flacco.
Joe Flacco, a guy that knows the scheme, a guy that's been with Stefanski multiple times throughout his career. I think that is the best backup that could step in and do the role that Stefanski would need a backup quarterback to do in Atlanta. A guy that's played the backup role multiple times throughout his career. I think I would agree with David, Joe Flacco. ATL Quill, do you agree with Joe Flacco? Who is your quarterback to in this long list of younger quarterbacks in free agency? You got a couple of older guys. There's a couple, but it's very shallow. Who would you pick? Because topics are getting very slim here towards 40 minutes into the podcast. Waiting for some more topics to hit. But David, another topic that we could talk about. We've talked about the tight end. We talked about running back. Let's talk about running back. We said, would that be an in-house fix? You said there was some college guys that you could look at. You said there was a guy in Stefanski's old scheme that you liked. I don't even really know who's all in the market. ATL Quill says not at all. I know he fits the scheme, but a no to Flacco. ATL Quill, who would you pick for your quarterback 2 in Atlanta? And then another question for you as well while you answer that. Do you think Penix is ready week 1? Is this guy a backup or does he play a couple of games? Let me know in the chat while David pulls up running back free agents.
Okay,
chat, also, if you're just now tuning in, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. We gained 4 new subscribers last show. We appreciate you guys. Keep those subscribers growing. As you see at the bottom of your screen, we're trying to reach 1K in subscribers. We're at 737 at the start of this show.
I'm going to read the list off. Najee Harris, Austin Eckler. These are all undrafted free agents. Antonio Gibson, Travis Etienne, Rico Dowell, Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb?
Nick Chubb.
David, the reason why I said it is because if you go back and listen to that interview, dude, he freaking was slobbering over the name Nick Chubb.
Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Gainwell, Travis Holmes, Jerome Ford. I'm stopping with
but David, these names that you're naming off here, how many teams really need a running back? Is Tyler Algier really going to be that sexy of a option in this stacked list of running backs?
We'll see. Raheem Mostert, Kareem Hunt, and we'll stop there.
Man, this shit's stacked. This shit's that. Listen, Tyler's below all those names. You just maybe above Ford, but
three of the names that I called have familiarity in Kevin Stefanski's system. When the ones that I stopped on are the ones that I paid real close attention. Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt. All of them have played
Kareem Hunt.
All of them have played in Kevin Stefanski's system. Like I said, Nick Chubb, 1,600 yard rusher in this system already. Jerome Ford, he came in behind Nick Chubb and had some solid years. And those are names that I think that will, could come in and, already know the system, can accelerate that, and would be the good compliment to Bijan. So, like I said, the dog in me would love to see Nick Chubb. And
then the fact that all those names are like big name running backs. What if Tyler Algier is not looked at as that sexy of a approach? ATL Plus says, I don't think Penix will be ready until around week 4 or 5, just to be safe. I'm still confused because of the cap space. ATL Quill, if you had to pick that quarterback to play those 4 to 5 games, what side of the fence are you leaning towards? Are you going let's run through the list real quick. You're talking about a Geno Smith. You're looking at a Kyler Murray, a Tua Tagovailoa. You're looking at possibly a Daniel Jones if the Colts decide otherwise. You're looking at a possible Aaron Rodgers. You're looking at a Tyrod Taylor. Also um, if you get the Bears backup quarterback, that guy. There's a couple more that I feel like I'm leaving off the list here. You look at also Malik Willis, Zach Wilson. There's also a few other names out there that's Jacoby Brissett, names like that are going to be
Yeah.
available. Who are you looking at,
But
ATL?
listen. The long end of the ACL recovery is 9 months. He's saying week 4 and 5. That puts him out almost out 10, 11 weeks. So you talk. So why he's already stated that he thinks he's ahead of schedule. So why would you think it's going to be week 4 or week 5? Is the question I would have to ask. That you know, maybe it's just talk that he says that he thinks he's ahead of schedule, but he was squatting way before um, most thought he should be. On the squat rack. Getting healthy and everything, getting back strong. So I want to know what makes the 4 to 5 week timeline a reality to you, AT Quell. You know, he's ahead of schedule. So 9 months is the long end of what they say the recovery is. So I just don't see that timeline fit.
My guy Mac Town Dirty in the chat with us said, "What's up, fellas? Mac Town, glad to have you here tonight, brother. Hit that like button, guys. If you're tuning in now, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, guys. We still have 3 winners that have yet to claim their prizes, guys. We have about 2 more podcasts that will run. If those guys don't return, we're going to have to redo the raffle and get some new winners in here. We're giving away a Falcon hoodie, a Falcon Julio Jones bobblehead, and an Atlanta Falcon flag, guys. 3 winners need to come by and claim those prizes. ATL Quell says, I like Tyson from the Bears. I love Willis as a hometown kid, but we'll have to pay him. The thing with Willis, man, there's just not enough tape. There's just not enough. Not
And
enough for
like
me.
saying, going to require 30 million to sign him for what I saw today, and there's no way that
And it's kind of
that's
the
going
same
to
with Tyson for me from the Bears. Like there's not enough that tells me he can win us games until Penix is ready.
you know.
I don't know. Unless the Falcons are okay with having a losing season this year to figure it out and then bank off for next year. I don't know. But I think the Falcons are in a mode where it's win now, and I just don't see Tyson or Willis being that answer. I
But
could be wrong
my season ticket can't stomach that. Losing. That wouldn't sit good.
at all. And
Uh,
it definitely wouldn't sit good with a million other fans that are expecting to win with a new head coach, new regime in Atlanta. We'll see what happens, man. There's so many options, so many ways that this could play out, and DFU is going to be with you throughout the whole thing, guys. We'll bring you updates. Make sure you ring that bell so you know when we go live. David, we're going to go ahead and close the show up a little early tonight with 20 minutes till the 1 hour mark. Give your shout outs for tonight, and we'll get ready to close the show out.
well, no, appreciate you. No impromptu, no podcast tonight. I'm out. Like I said, anytime I'm free and it's time to talk something about the Falcon football, I'm always game. Definitely giving a shout out to the Newton Rams. That's why I told you I want to be available tomorrow because state second round Sweet 16 state playoffs. My daughter team is playing, so we'll be there representing them tomorrow. Um, wishing those ladies the best, and hopefully they're able to keep progressing to that state championship that we expect them to capture again this year. Shout out to the Falcons. Shout out to DFU. Shout out to the good Lord up above, family, friends. Peace out.
As always, man, shout out to the comment section, guys. You guys kept the show rolling tonight when topics got thin. You guys came through with the comments. ATL Quell says, thanks for the response, fellas. Always, brother. Anytime we're live, come through with the comments or the questions, and we'll be sure to get to it. Shout out to the wife in the living room taking care of the babies. Shout out to baby number 3 on the way, guys. It is official. Baby number 3 is on the way. So big shout out to that. Good Lord above, always making things happen for us on this end. Blessed is an understatement. Shout out to all the new viewers, man. All the new subscribers the past month has been crazy. We appreciate the love and support. We're at 737 at the start of this show in subscribers, guys. If we could reach 750 in the next 2 weeks, it would be amazing. So hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Shout out to ATL Quell, Mactown Dirty, Southside Ricky, Mark Smith, everybody that commented tonight, man. You guys kept the show rolling. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, David, for coming through tonight, running this episode with me. Shout out to all the DFU hosts, co-hosts. Shout out to all the viewers tonight, man. As always, rise up, A-Town down. You can catch us next Friday night at 8, bringing you live Falcon content. We out of here, man. Peace.